Good morning, everyone. Welcome into our Saturday morning coaches show, and we have perhaps a new face for those watching on Channel 18 today. That's our guest today. He is he's on Clark Cipoletta's staff. Assistant coach Austin Fleming is with us today. He coaches the JV for the Wildcats, and he's in his second season under Coach Clark Cipoletta. Clark had some very important duty going on this morning as his son is playing basketball. I think he's like 4 years old, Coach?
Yeah, he's young, yeah.
I've never seen 4-year-olds play basketball. It boggles the imagination to think of what that might be like. But Coach is enjoying that, I guarantee you. And that's one excuse I always have a hard time arguing with is when Coach wants to go see his son or daughter in athletic activities, and I just can't hardly, well, it's not going to do any good to argue. They're not going to be here. They're going to be most of the time taking care of that. So I hope Coach enjoys that today. Get in a little bit of fun there before he goes from thinking about the game last night, which would be pleasant thoughts because the Wildcats defeated Hallsville by the score of 51-35. And then today, we'll mention this just right up off the top, the Wildcats are playing Longview, and those game times have been changed. So let me fill you in. 1 o'clock freshman game, about 2:15 for the JV, and 3:30 for the varsity. That's different than the schedule and what we thought just a day or two ago, but we got an update on that from Derek Driver, principal over at the high school, was letting us know the times had changed on that. And also another change that you may have noticed on the schedule, initially it was calling for some sub-varsity games at middle school, followed by the varsity playing at the high school. Now everything is at the high school. They'll all be in the main gym there at Sulphur Springs High School. And again, starting at 1 o'clock today, 1 o'clock, 2:15, and 3:30 for the varsity game. We wanted to be sure and get that out there because that is a change from the way that the schedule had it originally. So, as always, before we talk to Coach Fleming, let's get into other sports. And there's just 3 other sports right now, but there's quite a lot to talk about. A lot of things going on. We'll start with the Lady Cats. They were at home last night and got a big home win over Hallsville. It was 60-33, and the Lady Cats were ahead 27-4 at the half, and so they played very, very good defense. Hallsville had a real tough time getting a basket in that game. They kind of perked up in the second half, but the Lady Cats didn't let them come all the way back. They staved them off and really kind of played even with them in the second half. The first half was the difference. Lady Cats 3-2 in district play. Hallsville was 4-0, so they're now 4-1. And the Lady Cats are 9-6 for the season. They've won 3 in a row. So it's been a good 2021 for the Lady Cats basketball team. So they will be traveling to Longview today, and their game time has also changed. They will have a JV game at 12 noon, and then the varsity game at 1:15, and that's in Longview for the Lady Cats. This week for the Lady Cats, they will go to Mount Pleasant on Tuesday. It'll be a 5 o'clock start for the JV, 6:15 for varsity. And the same deal on Friday when they host Texas High in the main gym there at Sulphur Springs High School, 5 o'clock, 6:15 for the varsity. That's Lady Cats basketball. Wildcats soccer, they're in a Forney tournament, and they were 0-1 entering that tournament, and so far they've won 1, lost 1, and tied 1. On Thursday, they lost to Ennis. And excuse me. And then on Friday, they tied Mesquite Poteet, which is Alexi Upton's alma mater. And then later in the day, they defeated Dallas South Oak Cliff 3-0. So again, the Wildcats now 1-2-1, and they are playing as we speak right now. As they're playing Seagullville, and that was scheduled to start at 8:30. very chilly, I'm sure, but soccer fans are used to that. They get the worst weather of any sports team, and they're the hardiest fans around. They always show up to support those soccer teams. This week, the only action for the Wildcat soccer team, they'll be in a Wiley tournament, and that'll be Thursday through Saturday, and we'll be mentioning more about their matchups as it gets a little bit closer to the beginning of that tournament. Lady Cat soccer, it's almost a carbon copy. They came into a Kilgore tournament 0-1, and they back on Thursday they ended up with a tie to Pleasant Grove, and then they picked up a win as they got their first win of the season. And right now I don't have that written down, but they did on Friday. They did play Abilene Wiley, and that was a tough game for them. They lost that one 6-0, and I don't know if you realize it, but that Lady Cat soccer team starts something like 5 or 6 freshmen and 5 or 6 sophomores. So they're extremely young, and the future's bright, as I said in my story last night, but there's also growing pains, and I think they had some of those growing pains last night or yesterday afternoon. They're 1-2-1, and they're playing Chapel Hill today, and that'll be in that main stadium in Kilgore, their football stadium turning into a soccer stadium today, and they'll play Chapel Hill out of Tyler at 3 o'clock. As far as this week, they'll have Princeton at home on Tuesday night. Again, JV at 5:30, varsity 7:15, and then they'll be playing in the Princeton tournament Thursday through Saturday. So that's all the other sports. And before we get into the basketball conversation, let's go ahead and take our first internal break, and we'll be back with Coach Austin Fleming right after this break. And we're back on the Saturday Morning Coaches Show. Don Julian here, and we have Austin Fleming, assistant coach for Coach Cipolletta in his second season. And as we like to do, like we did with Coach Coleman last year when we had him on a couple of times, kind of find out a little bit about your background. So tell us, where are you from originally, and your high school ball, your college, and all that. Tell us about it.
High school, I graduated from Edgewood High School.
Oh, great.
Down the road. Then I went to college at Louisiana Tech. I was just a student, but I was a manager for our girls basketball team for a year, and that was really exciting.
Yeah.
Got into coaching, was at Pittsburgh my first 2 years at the junior high. Then I got a head coaching job at a 1A out in Central Texas at Zephyr, and then applied for Silver Springs, and luckily Coach Sip liked my resume enough and got a job here, and so this is my second year here, and it's been great.
Yeah, you know, Coach Cipolletta, he's an interesting story because he was a junior high coach. And they gave him the opportunity, even coaching in middle school, to actually be the JV coach, and move over to the varsity, even though he was still, I guess considered mostly a coach in the middle school. So it's kind of an interesting way to get started, but eventually he worked his way to the top. And I used to kid him all the time when he was a brand new coach. I said, "Coach, you coach every game like it's Game 7 of the NBA playoffs." And he really approached it that way. It'd be down by 25, but he's still coaching them up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, that's what you have to do. The kids put a lot of time into it. We put a lot of time into it, and you have to coach it like it's the last game of the season all the time, because that's what the kids deserve from us, and wouldn't want to have it any other way.
Yeah, really, sometimes it's bigger than W's. Is really what you're teaching kids. You've got them at such an age where they've still got a great deal to learn, and so you're really trying to mold them and get them, especially JV players. They're going to be varsity ready very soon. Oh,
I agree. We talk a lot of times after games in the locker room, or just at different times. Hey, today's our lessons for the future, so that when you get up there playing for the varsity, you'll have seen stuff, you'll understand what's coming, and it's been that way for the history of time, JV, get ready for varsity basketball, and you try to learn some harder lessons early that hopefully we don't repeat, going forward, and it's just a learning process. You're going to make mistakes, and that's what we're here to help you through them, and I think they do a good job of listening to that stuff. They really seem to be bought into that. So
I know you were excited the possibility, of working under Clark Cipolletta, and the thing, he seems so prepared. He just really seems to prepare for a game and not leave anything to chance.
Someone had joked with me one time that we're the most prepared team in the state, and we could be, very well could be, because we very much, we treat every opponent like, with respect, and we're going to find out, what they do, what they plan on doing against us, and we're going to teach our kids what to expect. We always say we're giving them the answers to the test before the test. So when they take the test, it's not something they've never seen before. So very rarely have we ever played somebody where they didn't do a lot of the stuff we'd seen on film. So it takes a lot of time, but we feel like it's worth it. So yeah, we're very prepared, but I think our kids appreciate it, and I know as a staff, I think it helps us when we get to the game. We've seen a lot of things they've already done, obviously, so we have a pretty good idea of what to expect.
All right, we definitely want to get into your JV and those guys a little bit later on, but let's just start by what we would do if Coach Cipolletta was here and talk about the Hallsville varsity game last night. And, you look at the score, 51-35, and the first thing that tells me is the Wildcats played good defense last night.
Yes, our defense last night was just it was very, just amazing. They were so locked in, and I just give credit to those guys. We had a couple guys who had to play scout team this week to prepare, and they learned all of Hallsville's sets and did a great job preparing our varsity guys for it. And we were just so locked in from the opening tip. We talked about all of the coverages. We were communicating. We were playing with energy. We were fighting over screens. They executed the game plan. Pretty much literally perfect. A lot of credit to Boo Wilkerson, who guarded probably the best shooter in the district. Then Malik Cole got on him. Bull Turner got on him. And they just all accepted that challenge, and that's what they met the challenge very well last night. I was very proud of them defensively for sure.
As we were talking before we started all this, I think you told me that they maybe had Hallsville 10 points at the half, and maybe somewhere mid-range of the third quarter only about 16. So they kind of built their point total late in the game as Cipolletta emptied the bench and let everybody get out there and play.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. 10 at halftime, it's just, you don't see that very often. And they actually are a pretty decent scoring team. Like this kid, number 30, he's probably one of the best shooters in East Texas. And so credit, obviously, to the defense. And then, we put some of those other guys in, get some experience. We need them, later in the season or next year for things. And they just kind of got a little hot, I guess you could say, late in the game, But it was a very, very impressive performance, just across the board. I thought everybody went in and really was locked into doing their job.
Now, of course, we're very familiar with Texas High and Mount Pleasant. We've had them around and in the district, and we all know the challenges, especially with Mount Pleasant, what they're going to provide. But, we're kind of relearning these teams that we haven't seen in 2 or 3 years, the Longviews, and that may be even longer because they were up in 6A, for several years. But the teams like Marshall and Pine Tree and Hallsville, those teams that we really haven't seen in a couple of years. Oh yeah, of course they've got the same coach, unless Max Prepp's got it wrong, but it looked like the same coach. And look, they came in 3-0 last night, and they were 13-4. So they have had a very successful season. So that was and going to their home court, which has always been a tough place to play. That was a big win for the Wildcats.
Yes, we have really, really talked to our kids about accepting the challenge of going out at the very beginning of the game and just dominating, putting your will on them and just letting them know right from the tip that, we're here to play, and last night was maybe the best performance we've had that all season, like you say. It's not like they were a team who has had trouble finding wins. You know, they were undefeated in district. You know, I think they felt like, you know, hey, this is a big game. They had a decent amount of fans there, had a student section, and you know, when you come out and hold someone to 10 points at halftime, you pretty much kill all that energy, you know.
Yeah.
And if we could do that every game, you know, I think we'll have a very successful district season. So, yeah, I was very proud of them because, like you say, Hallsville was coming in with some confidence, and it's important to start the game off and try to kill as much of that confidence as you can.
Yeah, that's always been a very tough place to play. I went and watched volleyball this year, the first time I'd been in that gym. But even with a very restricted crowd and everything like that, a few students can make a lot of noise in that gym.
Yes, and I agree. I'd been there before scouting a couple of times. I hadn't been there as a coach, and you know, the games I went to last year when I went and watched them, their student section, which, you know, no restrictions and all that, but they were very, very active, and there was quite a few of them. So for us to go out and really just quiet the crowd, I think was so important, you know, and you know, just again, credit to the kids because they really came out and, I mean, they listened to Coach Sip. I mean, you know, Sip gave them a challenge and they just totally accepted it. So.
Yeah, very good. It is a very, very tough place to come away with a win, and many times we've made that long drive back unsuccessfully. So it's good to get that win. Again, it was 51-35. Let's take our second internal break. We'll have more with Coach Austin Fleming right after this break. And by the way, the Wildcats with that win last night, 3-0 in district play and 10-6 for the season. And then coming up today, another one of those X factors, Coach. Longview is coming in, and looks like they've kind of had an up and down season a little bit. I think maybe they're 1-2 and going into the Pine Tree game last night. And I'm not sure how that turned out, but Longview. Being a big 6A and everything, they'll always give you a challenge, I would think.
Yes, they beat Pine Tree last night. They got a lot of guys who came back from football, and they're so good at football that they just got them back about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, I see. Okay.
He's a very good player. He just got back from football, and he's kind of starting to heat up a little bit. I think he may have had 28 last night. So it's going to be a challenge. I mean, they cover a lot of space. They're very active. They fly around. You know, we'll have to meet the ball and make good passes and just be strong when we drive to the hole. And then, you know, defensively, we just need to be able to sit and guard and, you know, hit defensive rebounds. You know, so you know, it's tough to play a back-to-back, but everybody in the district has to do it. So, you know, really can't complain.
Yeah, something new this year, these Friday, Saturday games, but like you say, it's rare in the schedule. There's not a whole lot of that, but every team has to experience a little bit of that then. Well, we've been promising to talk about your JV, and it appears that you've got a really good bunch this year. It seems like every time I'm watching them, they're winning against somebody.
Yes, we're doing very well. You know, we're also 3-0 in district. We have very similar goals to our varsity to win the district. You know, that takes a lot of commitment and a lot of effort to go out and do that. I'm extremely proud of them. I think our 3 district games, all of them have been won by double digits.
Wow.
But it's just a credit to them. I mean, they are so bought in. I mean, they're basketball guys. They are up here all the time. You know, they see varsity. They want to play with varsity one day. You know, I think 4 games above 500. You know, we had kind of a tough non-district's kind of hard for us at times going to Dallas, but you know, that experience makes you better for when you get to district. And you know, they're an extremely fun group to coach. I mean, I love them. I coached them last year with the freshmen, so I'm coaching them again on the JV. So for me, you know, we've been together for like 30 plus games, you know, together, me and this group. So they know me, I know them. We pretty much know exactly what to expect. We usually have a pretty decent plan of what we want to do when we get out there, and I've really enjoyed it. And you know, I'm just very proud of how bought in they are. That's what I love the most about them.
I've told Coach Cepoletta that the skill level that I see from JV and freshman teams is much higher than what we had years ago. You can just Basketball fever is kind of gone on for the last few years here in town, and it's caused players, to begin picking up the basketball earlier. When I go to one of Cipolleta's camps, I can't believe the young kids, and they're dribbling behind the back, and they're hitting all kinds of driving layups and shots against defense, and just a lot of skill level that we didn't have years ago.
Right. I mean, it's just a little different now. It probably used to be in terms of like across the board, really, in all schools, because we get the summertime to work now, and so many of our guys, they do just play basketball. I mean, some of them I think play baseball maybe a little bit. I didn't get to really know last year because of COVID, but they're in the gym all summer, and they're in the gym all summer, and then in the fall they get to do basketball every day, and there's just no, there's no substitute for that skill work you get to do like all the time. I mean, their growth from freshman to sophomore year has been, amazing, and part of that's just how much they're in the gym, how much they practice, how much they're willing to put into it, and I tell them a lot that I think it shows when we play, a lot of other schools, especially once we go east, that. You guys are in the gym more than, I'm probably in the gym more than a lot of varsity teams are in the gym. So I think it's paid off very well for them.
And the one thing, from the time the players on the freshman team, and then you get him and you may not recognize him because he may be 3 or 4 inches taller than he was the year before. So some of those players just transform in front of your eyes.
I agree. It's weird. When you're around them all the time, I feel like you don't notice it as much. So is that weird deal where you don't see him growing, but then then you see him get next to somebody else. You think like, oh wow, you're getting taller. Like you're, and like it's just the same group as last year. Literally every game I'll tell them like, hey, they're bigger than you, because that's everybody we play. But we are getting a little bit bigger, and that's the cool thing is I'm seeing that they're growing skill wise, they're growing maturity wise, they're growing height wise, and just trying to get them ready to play for SIP one day. And that's pretty much what my job is to get them ready for SIP. So I'm loving seeing the growth that a lot of those guys are having.
I would think you put a heavy emphasis on defense. I know Cipolleta does.
Yeah, I do. I'm really like on the varsity side of it, like the offensive coordinator, and I help with offense. But as the JV coach, we do emphasize defense a lot. More this year probably than I did last year. Just really, really worked with SIP during the spring and summer and fall to just make sure that we had a good defensive game plan for the underclassmen. But we do value defense a lot on JV because we feel like offensively we're a very good offensive JV team, and we feel like we'll score, but we want to make the other team have to work extremely hard. One thing I'm always yelling in games is just nothing easy. They're gonna score. It's basketball, but don't give them anything that they didn't have to work for.
There you go.
So SIP being such a great defensive mind, and Coach Coleman's a great defensive mind. I have 2 great people to bounce, stuff off of. Hey, what should we do here? And SIP will help out in games. Hey, maybe, look at doing this. It's always good suggestions. So and I will say that is the biggest growth from last year to this year. The freshman to sophomore is. Last year we felt like we weren't a very good defensive team. This year we feel like they've bought into defense so much more this year. They talk more on defense. They hit more on defense. They know who they're guarding better. And I'm very proud of their defensive effort, and I'm glad that we're stopping people.
Absolutely. Tell us about some of your JV players that are kind of stars of the future for the Wildcats.
I got you. I like to talk about all. I got 9 guys. I like to talk about all of them just because
Sure.
I'm with them all the time. You just start, I guess, probably with number 2, Lynn. His brother played for Sulphur Springs. He's a kid who's just a total gym rat. I mean, he's up here all the time. He's actually in the 5th period, which was the varsity, so he gets varsity, practice every day, and he comes and does JV. So he's double duty. So does and he's just, he's a very, very good player. He's going to be good for us one day. Very skilled, good shooter. He also talks a lot defensively, which he's kind of tries to be the leader a little bit. Then, going with another guy, Malachi Miles. He's also in the 5th period with the varsity, so he gets to experience going against some pretty tough competition. He's kind of our point guard. I mean, he kind of is the floor general. Plays some really good defense. He's actually one of our best rebounders, even though he's our point guard. But he can really box out and go up and get rebounds. Then you got Liam Giesland, number 23. He's they're all sophomores except for one. Liam has grown a tremendous amount. I think he's even more bought in this year than he was last year. He's kind of our big, but we don't really, to be honest, have like a real big. We're not like varsity. We don't have Cordrick and Justin and Kaysen and Bull and guys like that. So we kind of have to play more of a hybrid basketball. Then you got Cole Theo Fidelis, okay, and he is just like the most work hard at just kid I've ever like. He will do everything he can. I mean, he always says he's coming for Cameron Collins' charge record. He really might have 10 charges this year. He sells out for his team. Then you have Gavin White, number 4. He's kind of a bigger kid. A lot of people think he's probably a post, and he's kind of a hybrid, but he also has a very good shot. So I let him play on the outside quite a bit because I trust him to make shots. Those are the guys we start most games just from a consistency standpoint. Then bringing off the bench, a lot of times I'll have David Johnson. He's a very, very athletic guard who can guard the ball very well. He's a heck of a baseline driver. He can finish pretty well. He's also a pretty decent rebounder. Then you got DJ Wilkerson. He's our freshman. That's Boo Wilkerson's little brother.
Yeah.
He's still learning the game, and he's it's a lot different than it was in junior high. And but he's bought in, and when I tell him to do something, he says, "Yeah, yes sir, coach. I got you." And he has a little shot on him. He's a kind of the backup point guard when he needs to be in. And you got then we have Taurus Johnson, which is David's brother. Taurus has a good little shot on him. He's a lefty. He's the only lefty that we have, maybe in the whole program. But Taurus is getting so much better defensively. And then you have Jaden Nelson. He's a football kid who never played for basketball. I don't think he's ever played organized basketball, but he's in the gym all the time. And finally, he said he wanted to play, and he's very committed to learning, and he's trying to learn everything he can. And I work with him a ton because he says, "Coach, what can I do to get better? How can I get in the game? I need to learn the plays and I need to learn the defensive stuff." And he's a really good defender. That's what we always say about Jaden. He always asks me, "Let me guard the best player. Let me guard the best player." And but they play so well together. I think they complement each other very well. We've had nights where maybe our best scoring option wasn't playing good, and another guy stepped up and had scoring, and that's what it takes. Can't just rely on one person. I think they play very well as a team, and it's been a lot of fun coaching them.
One thing, it seemed like at the lower levels, and I don't want to denigrate the varsity certainly at all, but those young players are so coachable in a lot of cases. They really know that their ticket to the varsity and is to get much better on the JV. And so really, they're very coachable, seems like to me.
Oh, I think we're extremely coachable. This is my 5th year coaching, which is not a lot. I understand that, but my dad's a coach, so I've been around the game a long time. And these dudes, like you say, coachable. They do what you ask of them. They believe in the culture of, like you say, the ticket to varsity. The ticket to being successful kind of runs through the JV. It runs through learning, so that when you get to varsity, it's not all new to you. They learn to play with intensity and learn to lock in and do what they're supposed to do because they know SIP's going to ask them to do the same thing, and we're just supposed to, as assistants, we're supposed to just be extensions of our head coach, so we try to be an extension of SIP to get them ready for SIP one day, and SIP's so involved with them that they understand what he's going to want from them. But they've been extremely coachable. We have lapses every now and then, but that's not really not being coachable. That's just kids sometimes.
Yeah.
But they are going to do their very best to go into the game plan and do what it takes to win. They want to win. I will give them 100%. They want to win, and that's what I love about them. They want to win district. That's what they told me at the beginning of the year. I said, if that's what you want to do, I'm going to hold you accountable to it. We need to hold each other accountable to it. So. Being coachable comes with that. You want to win, you have to be coachable. So they do a great job with that.
No, very good. All right, let's take our third internal break, and we'll come back and wrap it up with assistant Wildcats basketball coach Austin Fleming. More with him right after this break. And here with Wildcats assistant coach Austin Fleming, and I apologize to him because I had him on last year, and somehow that slipped my feeble brain that's getting older every day, but I appreciate him coming back today and his enthusiasm for the game. It's fun to talk with him about the Wildcats. And you mentioned your dad. He's coached at several stops around East Texas.
Yes, sir. Hawkins for a long time, Edgewood for a pretty long time. Even after I graduated, he stayed there. So he's been around the game a long time. And my brother's actually a college coach in Dallas. So,
okay.
So pretty much after every game, I have plenty of resources to talk to, So, even like last night we won, and my dad had some good coaching points for me that he even make better for my JV. Hey, try this out. So, I get it from I got a lot of great support, which is I'm extremely blessed to have so many people to talk to about stuff.
All right. You mentioned offensive coordinator. Of course, that's kind of an unofficial title.
Yeah,
it's nothing official, but it kind of indicates what you do. And tell us how you get ready for a game. What types of things do you do to get ready for like Longview today?
So basically, and man, this was a tough week because we had a game Friday, Saturday. So you're kind of getting ready for Hallsville, but then kind of getting ready for Longview, like as you're on the tail end of Hallsville. Pretty much what I do in preparation is I watch all their film, and I pretty much watch them defensively. I don't always watch them offense. I mean, I will usually later in the week, but early in the week I especially watch what the other team does defensively. I send Sip a big list of questions he wants me to answer. And at the end of it, I'll kind of tell him what plays I think will look good versus them, what some of their strengths are, what some of their weaknesses are. And, I always put at least some strengths because everybody has some strengths. Doesn't matter what their record is. Like, they're going to be decent at something. And then in game, which I do all the baseline out of bounds plays. That's all. Sip, luckily for me, he lets me do all that, and we collaborate. I kind of run everything through him to make sure he's okay with it. And then in game and offensively, if I see something, he's totally fine with me. Suggest, hey, let's try this out. Maybe run a play to this guy. Even subs. Even he'll let me help out on that. So just offensively having the game plan of what we do, how it's going to affect the other team. That's pretty much what I do, and how, and that just takes a lot of times watching quite a bit of film to figure out, what other people do.
All right. It must be a good feeling if you see Coach Cipolletta trot out one of the plays that you suggested and see it work.
Oh yeah,
perfection.
It's a really good feeling. And we've had some games where, I've told, we've talked about, hey, this play and this play and this play. I mean, there's no way they stop it. And I think back to probably one of my favorite games here in my 2 years was last year at Red Oak in the playoff game. Mm-hmm. We talked about all these plays, and I think we literally every play that we came up with that we said would work, we scored on.
Wow.
And that's one of those where it's just like makes you just feel amazing when the game's over. So it's a fun feeling to suggest something and it work out, But it's also fun to see the kids execute it. I mean, that's a credit to the kids that they're, they can go and execute it so well, and that's fun to watch as well.
Well, the kids dream of the varsity. I'm sure at some point, at one point in the future, we're not trying to run you off or anything, but you'd probably like to be a head coach.
Yes, sir. I did it for 1 year at a 1A school, which it was a lot different. You wear a lot of hats at a 1A school. You do a lot of different things. Yeah. So, I told somebody one time, because I had to coach the JV some, and even the the junior high some. And I know 1 week I coached like 10 games in a week or something. And
oh, my.
Yeah, and they just all ran together, But, yes, sir, I agree. I mean, I would like to be in charge of my own program again one day. When that comes, I'm not really sure. I try to just live day to day, and I wouldn't want to work for anybody but Sip when it comes to being an assistant. He's taught me just so much. I'm so grateful that he hired me. So, It would be nice, obviously, one day to be a head coach again, but I'm really enjoying what I'm doing now and helping SIP and helping our kids accomplish their goals. So it's been really fun. 2 years, a year and a half, whatever you want to say.
Well, it's always fun to watch you guys during the game and how you get into it and you're coaching them up. You're trying not to get on the wrong side of the officials and all that kind of stuff. But I'm sure you let them know in subtle ways that we had one coach that stamped his foot all the time, and one official came over and said, "I'm hearing you stamping that foot." So sometimes they know that. So that's kind of a thin line you have to walk there.
Yeah. But I tell the kids all the time, like, let us worry about the officials, y'all. I'll just play the game, But I would say, yeah, we are a fairly energetic staff. We get pretty energetic in games, and I always check my little Fitbit watch after my heart rate's so high during all the games. I'm like, God, the other day it said I did 200 flights of stairs, and it's like I just coached a game, and I guess walking during the JV game and how intense the varsity game was. So. But when you put all that time into it and all that effort into it, like I actually tell this to the JV kids all the time. We work all summer, all fall, and you only get, this year you only get 27 games. You only get 32 minutes to go out there and do something. So why not play with passion and energy and enthusiasm? Because what's the point doing all this stuff if when you get to a game you're not going to go out there and give it your all? So.
Yeah. Don't want to mail it in.
Exactly. I mean, you only get so many games in your whole career, so make them all count.
And, any player that's graduated will tell you it always ends so fast, they just can't believe that, you look up and it's senior night,
exactly.
Or in playoff, it always happens for every team. There's a last game, and unless you're state champ, it always ends too early, as we say. And so that's give it all the gusto you can, because
exactly.
It's not going to last forever.
Yes, and I also just think that what good does it do to not play hard? Just to me it just doesn't do any good, because what's the point in? I guess it's just competing. You don't want to be done with your season or a game and think, oh man, I could have done more. Because. It's just one of those things that's in life. You want to, if you're going to put time into something, you need to try to just work your hardest at it. That's kind of how we feel as coaches, and I do think our players at Sulphur do a good job of that. I really do believe that. So.
All right, best of luck, Coach, with the JV and helping out the varsity, and we appreciate having you on today and the job that you're doing, and the Wildcats. And again, playing today, it'll be right here in town with a 1 o'clock start for the freshman team, 2:15 for JV, and the varsity getting underway at around 3:30. And KSST will be there, and we'll be hoping to live stream, and we'll have audio streaming as well. And if you can make it out to the game. I know there's some limits these days, but I don't know that we've reached them yet. So keep turning out and supporting those Wildcats. And thank you so much for tuning in today. And again, thanks to Austin Fleming for being on the show. I'm Don Julian, and so long, everyone.